Thank you once again. So, yes, like Kofi asked the question, I was asking the same last week, that this CI, we first heard about it some 7 months ago. Now, some 6 months ago, we sat on this program and discussed the issue, and the number outstanding to be registered was the number that is still outstanding to be registered. If the state is that committed, the question being asked is, why wait till now to begin the process to now give the money for the cards, for the registration process to continue? In fact, 6 months ago, Dr. Sribo Kweku was on this show and expressed the faith. He was almost certain that by the close of the year 2022, the outstanding number would have been covered. Here we are. But of course, the finance minister says the money has now been released. So, do you understand the opposition still?
Well, Samson, let me start by saying that for me, it is quite strange that almost every election, the EC itself, particularly this electoral commission, the current leadership of the EC, makes effort to sort of discredit its own register. If you recall, before the 2020 elections, we were told that, well, the current register has a lot of issues. It is not pure. It has minors, it has non-Ghanaians, and all of that. And we went through the very challenging situation of having to amend the register months into elections. Even people raising concerns about a decision by ECOWAS to say, look, you don't have to amend your register during a certain period to elections. And yet we went through that. Today, we are being told that the new CI is to cure whatever challenges we have with the current register and to ensure that we have a very clean register. Samson, the truth is that when it comes to biometric data and national databases, national identification database and all of that, a lot of countries around the world take inspiration from India. India did it almost a decade ago, and if you read the literature, whether it is the World Bank, the Brookings Institute, and a number of think tanks around the world would say that India remains the gold standard when it comes to national identification and how to use national databases to deal with a lot of the issues that we are talking about. And quite clearly, listening to the EC, I see a lot of what was done in India being talked about. But in India in 2015, Samson, the Electoral Commission there decided to embark on what it called a National Electoral Roll Purification and Authentication Program. And the idea was how they merge the voter roll with the database of the National Identity Authority there, and that is called the ANHA also, if I'm pronouncing it right, but ADHAAR. And as I said, India has what many would say is the gold standard. If you read the World Bank reports on digitization, economic development, and all of that, reference is made to India's success. But even at that time, the Supreme Court of India eventually shut it down and said, look, if this was going to happen, a lot of people were going to be disenfranchised. And indeed, in the 2015 poll in certain provinces, a lot of people were disenfranchised because they didn't have the national identity documents. And that's about a country that, started this whole thing 10 or more years ago, has been touted as a global success, and so on and so forth. And here we are in Ghana. We still are grappling with people not having the NIA cards. People haven't complained about, they've gone through the process 6 months on, they haven't gotten it. And yet, we have an electoral commission that says we are bent on using the NIA card as the sole means of identifying yourself as eligible to be put on the voters' roll. I think that it's quite complicated. And we need to take, one step at a time. We've come this far from, opaque ballot boxes to voter cards without pictures to voter cards with colored pictures to transparent boxes to biometric, use of biometric machines, no verification, no vote. Last year, the same process led us to take that bizarre decision that your birth certificate cannot authenticate that you are a Ghanaian. And we went through the process of just NIA and passport, even as citizens were crying and all of that. Today we are saying, even those steps that we took aren't enough. And we now have to go through the process of having everybody or those who want to be on the register produce a national ID, when we know a lot of people don't have it. But sometimes my surprise is that over the period, and not just this time, every incumbent, every government appears to have thought and planned with the EC. And so they are always thinking the same way as the EC. And that is what we are seeing now, where the majority, the MPP, appears to be okay with everything that the EC is doing. The minority says no. And for me, there are fundamental things. Look, it is the same EC that has, that created a situation where we live in a country where a particular group of people in this country don't have a representative in parliament. And almost 3 years on, we are okay. We are looking on. What has the EC done to ensure that that whole mess is killed? Nothing has been done. We are in a year where
Sule, the EC's primary concern and the reason for which it wants to use only the national ID card as the identifier to be registered as a voter is, as the commission chairperson says, to eliminate the guarantor system, and by doing so, you eliminate minors and foreigners who use that route to get onto the EC's roll. The EC, up to 2020, has managed to do what it says is some sort of a cleanup of the register. So a register of 17 million Ghanaian voters has as many as over 10 million Ghanaian voters who use the ID, national ID, to obtain their voter ID. So they are hoping that going forward, no room is allowed for that register to be, if you like, diluted. So if you use only Ghana card, you will refine it and clean it even more. It has been shown that when they ran the Ghana card through the previous registrations and those who didn't register with Ghana card, they seem to have found multiple names and, seek to clean the register. When you run the Ghana card through our passport system, we are told the same thing, multiple names, including passports that even the passport office has no, records of. So this is to ensure a cleaner register. You don't agree?
Well, Samson, the aspiration sounds great, but practically, it would be great if the EC can point us to any particular country, either on the continent or elsewhere, where that has been done successfully. And I'm saying that, look, when it comes to national databases, even the NIA, I'm sure, would say that they had to learn a lot from what has happened in India. And even there, they couldn't, use the national ID data, merge it with the EC's data to say, look, we've solved all the problems related to whether having foreigners or having minors and all the issues that the EC is talking about. I share the view that the NIA card and its database is something that if we work on it properly, we'll get to a point where a lot of issues in this country will be dealt with. But even so, we are not even talking about, look, the issues of privacy and how the EC plans to mitigate the challenges that may result from that. And we've learned about Philippines, for example, where the EC tried to do that same thing, and in the end, about the data of about 15 million people got compromised. And remember, your NIA card has literally everything about you. your bank details, your SNIT registration, your your fingerprints, your eyelids, your mobile identity, your home address, and so on. How has the EC given us some assurance, or it is said, oh, you just come, you flash it, and once we see it, you go? Is it that they are not going to capture anything, even the number?
The NIA card is not the card to be used to vote.
I agree, but
you are only using it to obtain a voter's card.
Exactly, I understand. But the point I am making is that, as far as I know, there are certain data or forms that you fill in Ghana. All that you require is to input your Ghana card and your Ghana card number. And as soon as you input that, you get a pop-up that indicates your full name, your date of birth. And I believe if other things were required, your Ghana card number alone can reveal that.
All right.
The point I'm making is that, is it that you just go to a voting center, you flash your Ghana card, and they don't capture anything about your Ghana card to show that this is a proof of your identity? And if they would do, and what they would do is just basically your Ghana card number, what is the guarantee that the data that is going to be captured will be protected?
Okay.
Related to that is also this whole thing about continuous registration. And there are other issues that we can talk about that. So I think the EC needs to progress quite cautiously. We understand that, yes, we want to clean the data and all of that. But if we are not careful, in doing so, we'll get ourselves into a mess. And the whole issue of disenfranchisement, as happened elsewhere, will be a major problem.
Okay.